Conspirinormal.
You have not seen.
It's like asking your grandma to tell you that story.
Well, but I can't judge because I haven't seen anything that they've done. I haven't seen the Star Trek. I haven't seen any of that. So, and like I said, and I say this, I say this on the show all the time. I will not judge things unless I've personally seen them.
Have you guys seen the new Star Trek?
What,
the one
the Discovery?
The CBS All Access?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen Star Trek Discovery.
I don't think anybody's watching it.
I don't know. I've heard some people really dig it, so I'm not.
All the guys I trust.
I'm reserving judgment.
All the guys that I listen to that I trust for reviews and shit say that they don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. They said it was terrible.
You're not talking about the Picard? Is it the Picard or
no? No, the other one. Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah. Star Trek Discovery, yeah.
Picard was supposed to be okay for a few episodes, but now they're complaining about it. The same ones are going, nah, it's bad. But I don't know.
How can it be bad with Patrick Stewart at Sir Patrick?
Yeah, I know.
Because
he's like the raddest human ever.
Because the writers, the people that write that shit nowadays, they're not as talented as the prior generations. I mean, look what they did to Star Wars. I mean, shit. And
you realize you sound like a grandpa, right?
It's just not very. It's not well written. It's not well written. All right.
Back in my day.
Did you see Rise of Skywalker? Because I didn't. I haven't seen it.
I saw it.
I liked it.
Out of the trilogy, out of that new trilogy, it was the best one.
Okay.
I think it was too. Actually,
it was the best one.
I liked it a lot. We saw it in the theater,
but they had fucked up that middle one so bad that it really couldn't cover. It really couldn't recover.
Although I didn't mind the second one. Did we cover this on the last time we were on the show? We were talking about.
Yeah,
we probably did. We probably did.
I didn't mind the second one.
I don't know if we talked about the third one though, because I don't think I've had you on since it came out.
Basically, what happened is JJ retconned that middle one, and in the third one, he tried to pack 2 movies worth of damn story into it.
So he acted like the second one didn't exist.
Basically.
Well, sort of, but not. Some stuff carried from the second one.
Very little. You could actually not watch that middle one. Just go from the first one to the third one, and you'd have a story. But the second movie is jumbled. Not. Well, there's no spoilers. Palpatine just shows up out of nowhere. It was cool though. I thought it was pretty cool, but there wasn't 2 movies of backstories to build up his appearance.
Yeah.
It's just like they pulled that out of their ass at the fucking last minute. How are we going to save this?
That's what I've heard. I haven't seen the movie, so
it's like, how are we going to save this? And then they said, well, okay, we can do it like this. Yeah. They'll buy that. And then they didn't really.
I liked it.
It was okay. Out of the 3, it was the best one.
I think
but you know what? Throw the first one and the second one away, and just watch that third one on its own like a standalone, and it makes more sense if you ask me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd have to watch it again to see what you're talking about. But yeah.
So I'll ask you this, guys. This is not a topic that you've covered on the show, but since we were going to talk about this, I'll get your thoughts on. So. Seraphiel, we were preparing to have Gerard Williams on, but did you watch that? You watched that movie, didn't you? The Grey Wolf movie? Okay. So I'll get your thoughts on this, guys. What do you think about the possibility of Hitler surviving World War II and living and dying in Argentina? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you want to go on that first, Jenny?
I do not think that happened, no.
Okay.
Well, I lived in Brazil and
I know that a lot of ex-Nazis did that.
I ran into a lot of the children, grandchildren of ex-Nazis.
Sure, but I don't know. I don't.
There was some shit that sounded very interesting about that maybe that could happen. There were some people that could swear up and down that they knew him and talked about him. That he had started an entirely new life. That he had gotten remarried, and that he totally turned his back on all that, and that he was.
That's messed up.
That he was there living on his own with kind of like like a housekeeper and a private nurse, and I think he was working as a doctor, if I remember correctly.
Oh
yeah. There's
Isn't it?
so there's two different schools of thought on that.
Yeah.
The one you're talking about is they think that he lived in Indonesia.
Yeah,
and like married an Indonesian woman and was working as a doctor. That's what
that's right.
That's what Peter Levenda talks about that. And then there's the other school of thought that he survives World War II. Of course, he would have survived World War II in the first one. But he survives World War II, and he gets taken to Argentina in a submarine, and he lives down there. And the whole idea behind this like documentary, and you can find it on Amazon Prime, is that he had lived down there, and Martin Bormann was there too. He survived the war too.
Yeah, well, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because there's some real debate on Martin Bormann because they found a skull, but it was a woman's skull or something like that. And so that it was just Martin Bormann just kind of steadily took the reins of power and just like, because they had to keep Hitler safe and he got like kind of sidelined and he just kind of died sad and alone in like 1962 or something. Mm-hmm. So you watched the movie, Sergio. What did you think about that?
My main point with it was that I just don't know how someone could keep that secret. Like, because there's servant people, maids, all kinds of people who see the guy. And it's like, how could that, especially with the ticket Mossad would have had for him. I mean, I don't see how that could have been kept a secret. Like for people to actually see him.
Well,
yeah, somebody that high profile. I mean, I could see how it could happen with maybe the lower level guys, but
I guess, we have similar circumstances in like, I mean, Osama bin Laden was, at large for that long. So maybe if it's a sympathetic enough population,
I think you have to consider is Juan Perón and the Perones. They kind of had a deal worked out with all the ex-Nazis. They helped them rebuild their Air Force, and they were protecting the ex-Nazis. And they did for their entire life. They had little private communities down there. And because South America really had no beef with the Nazis. They didn't really care about this concentration camp stuff. They just didn't. And, they were like, well, these guys weren't in the concentration camps working and pulling the trigger. That kind of stuff. That's just the way they looked at it. And they had valuable services that they could give to the Perones and the Argentine government at the time. And it wasn't just them. I mean, we had Operation Paperclip. We were taking them all in.
Oh, yeah.
So, and so were the Russians. All the important Nazis lived good lives after the war. They were working for
Seems
one
like
superpower.
Hitler actually being alive, though, would be more of a threat, or Hitler being around would be more of a threat to all those people trying to survive and blend in. I mean, then you got just the big guy himself around. That just doesn't seem like it'd be good for anybody.
Well, there's some problems with the Hitler surviving theory. That, first of all, he was in really bad health. He was addicted to a lot of painkillers. He was a morphine addict. He was also on meth. His private doctor gave him something called Vitamoltin B, which was like the shit of Russian peasants mixed with fucking meth. So he was taking that. They were also
meth.
Yeah.
Shit meth.
Yeah, his doctor's name was Dr. Morell, and he was just a real quack. But he was also injecting him with methamphetamines too to get him up, to wake him up, put him back into action. And it also kind of like he had bad symptoms of Parkinson's disease towards the end of his life. And it's believed that he may have had syphilis in remission, or third stage syphilis.
That's what I heard.
And it makes you very lizard-like. If you come up with something, you cannot reverse an idea, which that sounds a lot like the way he was, especially towards the end of his life. He wouldn't reverse his own decisions, even if those decisions were obviously bad.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of that. So even had he survived the war, he wouldn't have lived for very long. But here's the thing. I think another thing that kind of puts the nail in that coffin. It wasn't really in Hitler's character to run. He wasn't like that. He was actually brought up on all these Wagnerian operas, and he had all this honor system and honor code, and he was willing to die for what he believed in. He was a true believer.
Yeah, they got the kind of like Gotterdammerung.
Exactly.
Stuff. Go down in a blaze of glory. Yeah.
It was the twilight of the gods. He was,
right.
Out of that shit. We're talking about Ragnarok. So when the Russians were moving in on him, he wasn't going to be taken alive, and he wasn't going to run. He definitely didn't want to be dragged around in a damn cage and put on trial and be under somebody else's thumb. So the stories that his driver and his guys told about him and his wife committing suicide and the way that they did it, that sounds more like what Hitler would have done. I don't think he would have run, because if he had run, that would have been in I guess you could call it Nazi thinking. I don't really like to call it Nazi thinking. It was just more of traditional German thinking. The way they were is that when you failed, it was like a captain going down with a ship.
Yeah.
Right.
You were supposed to die along with your failure. He'd even given orders out to the SS to basically kill all the Germans.
Yeah.
Kill all the Germans. They are unfit to live. We're all dying.
Because we lost.
We lost. And they were even going out and fucking blowing up all the dams and the power plants. And he says, let the enemy have nothing from us.
Yeah.
Burn
it all down.
The Germanic, and like I said, I don't like to say Nazi, it's a traditional Germanic philosophy that came from like Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche, that train of thought. The traditional way is if you could not control something, it was better to go down and to die than to give up, to relinquish control over to something else.
Yeah.
In other words, if you can't run it, fuck it.
Yeah.
Die. And that's just the way they think.
Yeah.
They were very much like Bushido.
I was just gonna say,
like a Japanese samurai.
Like committing.
I have failed. I commit
seppuku.
seppuku. Right? Yeah, they're like that.
Yeah.
Well, but what do you think about the idea of a bunch of them wanting to get out of there and create this financial empire and kind of that Fourth Reich idea, especially in places like Argentina, places like Franco Spain? I mean, do you believe that kind of that Fourth Reich theory, that this big organized financial thing got started?
No, I think they just went and they worked for the governments of the countries that they ran to, kind of like Operation Paperclips. And then over a few generations, they just married into the local population, because I knew some of those guys. Growing up in Brazil, I knew guys that were descendants of the runaway Nazis. And they were their parents were Brazilians, but they were now Americans, which that's some wild shit.
Can I say that Runaway Nazis would be a great band name?
Runaway Nazis.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about like Brazil is like when you get to the south of Brazil, there's a lot of German towns, cities there. So
Nazis ran to a place like Brazil. They became Brazilians, in citizenship. And then the next generation after that, they were successful, and they would kind of weasel their way into American citizenship. You know what I mean? And then some of them immigrated back into the United States. But you got to understand, you're going to hold a kid responsible for something that the grandfather did?
That's what I mean.
It's totally illegal. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that my grandfather believed and that he said.
They had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with what their grandparents did. And that's one of the problems with, I don't think Israel would take revenge on a grandchild or a child of a Nazi. Even though let's say like that second generation, even though they were Brazilians, they were still technically, I guess you could say philosophically, they were Nazis. But they were Brazilian Nazis.
In a way, though, you can't really. I know people are kind of into that because the whole biblical sins of the fathers thing, But I do not politically agree with either of my parents. Mm-hmm. So you have to like take that into consideration. Like just because like the kid, just because their parents were Nazis, for example, that doesn't mean that they agree with that shit.
But I went to school with this kid, man, and I went to his house and walked into the house, and above the mantle, you know what was there, right?
Uh-oh.
Adolf Hitler and fucking and swastika flags and all that.
I think
oh my God,
if I went
wow.
to somebody's house, I'd be like, yeah, bye.
No, he was cool, man. We were buying weed together. We were buying weed together.
You bought weed with the child of a Nazi?
Yeah, no, grandchild.
Oh, the grandchild.
Grandchild of Nazi.
Who was he a grandchild of? Do you know?
If I walked in the house, I'd be like...
We were fucking listening to Def Leppard albums and fucking shit like that. Fucking, hell yeah. Hell yeah. This is like 1984.
That's kind of hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
And also kind of
I could name him, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to name him. He's an American.
Yeah.
But his parents were Brazilian, and his grandparents were Germans.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And
I'm not really sure what I would do in that situation.
I walked into his parents' house, and they had all the real shit that Granddad had brought over.
All the Nazi memorabilia.
Yeah, and it wasn't fake. It was the real thing.
Wow.
It was the real fucking thing.
I'm not really sure
and
how
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like, what the fuck? And he's looking at me with fucking grin ear to ear. That's a trip, ain't it? Yeah. And he goes, that's my granddad. And he goes like, that's my granddad right there. And he goes, there's my dad. And his dad was like a little kid in the photos.
It's like, I'm not sure how to feel about this.
Yeah.
Was it a picture actually with like Hitler?
Yeah, one of them was a fucking.
What?
One of them was a framed picture of the Fuhrer right there above the mantle.
Holy crap!
They were true believers. But just the thing is, you have to understand the point of view that they had.
That's crazy.
To them, they're not thinking of concentration camps and big piles of dead Jewish people.
Right, I get that.
They're thinking of the guy, of like a JFK type guy. Their characterization of him was totally different. That this was their brave leader, like a damn MacArthur type figure.
Yeah, they're just with their followers, you know, just kind of blind followers. Yeah.
I don't think it was blind. They knew. They didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care. Right. Because to them, the Jews were demons. You know, that they were purging an evil from the earth.
Well, that's kind of how Hitler felt.
Yeah. So everything had, just like Obi-Wan says, many of the truths we cling to depend upon a certain point of view.
It's true believers, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy shit.
Yeah, but then here's the weird thing. The kid that I'm talking about, he's dating Brazilian girls of fucking mixed race and shit. He was not racist.
Right.
Not racist at all.
Yeah.
It's either he didn't follow that or he compartmentalized. Maybe.
No, you just read into it. When you see Hitler, you think of a racist. They didn't think that. They thought of him as just a hero. A dude that went down fight.
The popular people was just more of a nationalist thing. It was kind of more the elite who created the racial theories.
I feel like it's maybe a Vlad the Impaler thing, where it's like
Vlad the Impaler.
Where it's like the whole entire world
was
thinks
against
of him as like he's Dracula.
Exactly.
But where he's from in Wallachia, like everybody thinks he's a hero.
That's exactly the way the Germans that ran thought. The world is against him because he's so good. He's protecting us. From that's what like Vlad Tepes or Vlad the Impaler.
Still,
I mean, to run, you would have to be. I mean, because a lot of the regular soldiers.
No. Okay. Yeah, he was high ranking. He was high ranking. He was high ranking.
Oof,
he was high ranking. Now he wasn't in the inner circle or anything, but he was high ranking. Yeah, the grand.
He was like high ranking, probably like the SS or something like that.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I saw the uniform.
Tom is one of the few people that has smoked pot with the grandson of a Nazi.
Yeah, and he was an SS man. He was SS.
That is crazy. I don't think you ever told me that story, actually.
Yeah, I did.
Maybe you did, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, my mother knows who he is.
Oh, okay.
Knows exactly who he is.
We're not saying who he is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's not wanted. Yeah. He's not wanted. He's not wanted. I just don't want to out the guy. You know, he's not a criminal.
That's what I'm saying. Don't.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I don't agree with my grandparents.
He can't control who his grandparents are.
Right. I don't agree with. I'd never agree with my grandparents.
He was like, I don't know, probably like the equivalent of maybe like a full bird colonel. All right. But when they ran in a big unit. Each one of them had their own things. I don't know what you would call that. I think it's like SS Oversturmführer, some shit like that. Something along that line.
Right.
A lot of them ran there.
Crazy. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
That's pretty crazy.
Let's talk about some of the stuff you guys have been talking about on the show.
Okay.
Couple of fine, outstanding individuals here. We'll just we'll just keep it because you guys have been talking about some awesome cast of characters. So you guys did a really good show recently on the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah,
which was interesting. And then I think you followed that up with Ed Gein. I think was the next one that you talked about.
Do that one forever.
Yeah,
so many people requested it. We finally got around to it.
Yeah, you put that one off for a little while.
Well, and I think we said this on the show, but we were trying to do, like, when we were kind of first starting out, like our first year or two, we were trying to do crimes that were maybe not as well known, that didn't have like a whole bunch of other YouTube videos about them. But so many people asked us, is like, please do Jeffrey Dahmer, please do Ed Gein, please do this and that and the other. So finally we got around, like, we did Ted Bundy, we did like all the kind of heavy hitters. Remember we did a show about the original Night Stalker before Joseph D'Angelo got caught.
Yeah, no. Yep. And then he got caught, and all of a sudden the channel went boom. That video fucking blew up.
We had to do another video.
We had to do another one. Yeah.
Saying that, like,
and I called it. I said that dude's a cop.
Yeah, we did.
I predicted a lot about that.
So much stuff that we did. It's fascinating to go back and listen to the show that we did about him before anybody knew who he was. Yeah. And it's like all the stuff that we said on there. It's like, well, I mean, I was just repeating stuff that the FBI said, so they had figured that shit out. But
Tom is a criminal profiler.
Yeah, I can think like a criminal.
He's a mind hunter.
That's why.
So is there anything about, like, that you learned that was different about Ed Gein? That, like, anything that you that kind of like stood out to you, or that was because he's so written about, and there's been so many movies based off him, and there was a movie about him. Was there anything that you found, like, doing the research for the show, that you were like, oh, I never knew that before? That's pretty interesting.
I feel like Ed Gein, he was the only, and this is like kind of a bold statement maybe, but Ed Gein, I think, was the only serial killer, and technically he's not a serial killer because he only got convicted of 2, even though I suspect that he killed more than that.
Right.
But he was the only one that I actually kind of felt a little tiny bit sorry for, because he was clearly nuts. Clearly. Yeah. And I mean, I do feel like, one, he had a shitty childhood, which a lot of serial killers did, and a lot of people who don't turn out to be serial killers also have shitty childhoods and don't turn out to be serial killers. So, but the fact that after his mom died and he just went into this crazy, hey, I'm going to start robbing graves and making furniture out of bones and stuff like that. It's like, who does that? That guy. That's why they made 3 movies about him. Yeah. But it's also, he obviously had mental problems, and I feel kind of bad because I don't know if he could help it. Mm-hmm. Like some of the other, like people like Ted Bundy and shit like that, that dude's just like a psychopath. And I feel like, they have mental problems too. Sociopathy is also a mental problem. That drink wasn't
that strong, Jenny.
No, I'm just saying it's a hard word to pronounce.
Yeah, it is sociopathy. Yeah.
That's also a mental problem. Yeah. But I feel like that's something that you have some control over. I mean, at the moment, I'm reading a book about BTK, and the stuff that he says, he was very aware of what he was doing. Yeah. Right. He knew it was bad. He knew it was wrong. He just, he uses this excuse like, oh, well, I had my black hat. That's what he called it. Yeah. White hat was when he was doing stuff, that was normal. Yeah. But black hat was when he was like doing villainous shit. But he knew the distinction. Yeah. So I don't think he was crazy in the sense that Ed Gein was crazy. Ed Gein, I don't think he even realized, after his mom died, he just went completely, as Gordon Ramsay would say, doolally. Yeah. And he just decided, I'm just going to dig some women up. Yeah. And wear their skin.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, who does that?
I think part of it was that dude's upbringing. I mean, he was pretty isolated. And the way he was raised, I mean, the dude didn't have any damn social skills. So in a way, he was almost kind of like a feral. In a way, he's kind of not really feral. Imagine a woman has a kid, and instead of letting that kid live their own life, she keeps the kid as a pet. And that's kind of
was kind of like that.
That's more like the way.
And his mom was kind of like, and I said this on the show. I mean, his mom was kind of like Carrie's mom, like from the movie.
Yeah,
she was really religious. All women were whores.
And he's out in the country and shit, and this would fuck you up, especially back in the time that he lived. There's no social media. There's no way to outreach. So his world was very, very small.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're talking about a high IQ dude. I think you're talking about a dude with like maybe 60 or 70 IQ.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't imagine that he was a really smart guy. Yeah. He almost seems like, real childlike.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened. He was just kind of childlike and perverted.
That's why I feel kind of
not
bad.
Socialized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I feel like he didn't really. Maybe had he been, socialized, and maybe had he been brought up in a normal family in a normal environment, he may have turned out okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, like, cognitively, I think he was fairly normal, or maybe a little above average. He did fine in school and stuff like that. So he wasn't. He wasn't like mentally challenged or anything like that. Yeah. But I do think that the fact that he was only allowed to go to school and that was it, and then like the rest of the time he's at the house with his mom.
Yeah.
Well,
he probably made fun of it at school, so he didn't really no outreach there. So
that's what I mean. So he didn't have any
retreat into a shell.
Yeah, he didn't have any friends. Like his dad was a drunk.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, and his mom was like super overbearing, and she was always like reading from the Bible, and like him and his brother were both like.
And I always pictured the dude very kind of like introverted and shy and turning inward on himself. And once that happens, if you're kind of an empty motherfucker with not much of a character to begin with, and you just turn in on yourself, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's like sucking your own dick. Ain't nothing gonna happen there. So he ends up fucking becoming like a black hole. You know what I mean? You can't create anything on your own without any damn influences. And all of his influences were shit.
Yeah.
And he didn't have much of an imagination probably. So you just kind of regress or stay at, like you said, like a real childlike level.
Yeah. He seemed very childlike to me.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, you saying he had no imagination, I would not have thought of making all of those things out of people's bones and
Okay,
skins,
let me back that up then. He didn't have a very healthy imagination.
Yeah.
Right. He couldn't think his way out of that problem. Like he couldn't smack that mama and say, fuck it, I'm out of here.
But his brother did. His older brother knew that was not right.
And I think they killed that brother.
I think he killed his brother too. Yeah. Allegedly. I mean, it just seems very weird that there was like a fire on the property.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, me and my brother were fighting this fire. And then, oh, look, there he is. He's dead. He's not burned or anything.
Yeah.
There's also that possibility that he was like sexually abused, and
he may have been.
He may have been by his mom.
His old pervy mom. Well, the thing is that keeping somebody sexually oppressed, where you don't let them develop, that may be sexual abuse too. Think about it. That is sexual abuse.
It is actually. Yeah. Well, because you're not letting them have like a normal, healthy human.
Not letting them have a damn life.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of serial killers have that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel more pity for him because he just seems like he never had a chance to develop like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people like still find him so fascinating, is that even when he was sent to, because he wasn't even sent to prison, he was sent to a mental asylum, and rightly so. But when he was there, he just seemed so mild-mannered, and he seemed like such a nice man. It's like, and everyone said that. They let him babysit their kids, for Christ's sake.
He seemed like he's nice, but he's not. Okay,
right.
Let's not try to fool ourselves. That dude's fucking bad. It's just that he was like a a little rat. You know what I mean? Kind of trapped in a cage for too long. There wasn't much to that dude. That was just a kind of his superficial appearance.
He was so nice, but he made suits out of human skin.
And then he shot people and stuff, and then he hung them upside down. He wasn't nice.
Right.
I think that's how he came across to people.
That's just a superficial appearance. He was just behaving a certain way. He was perverted. He was perverted.
Yeah.
This is a perversion.
Although
because he couldn't develop in any other way, probably with the situation he was in. My understanding is he put on that damn woman's skin. He'd dance around naked like he was sexy. I'll tell you something, man. You're not fucking sexy with that fucking skin on.
Well, that did not even need to be said.
All right. I'm going to have to go out there and fucking get that motherfucker's mind right. You are not goddamn sexy in that damn skin. I'll fucking smack you. All right? Want to be sexy? Put some fucking high heels on. Take you some of that estrogen. Get you some hormone block. Go down to fucking Brazil. Go put some implants up in there.
Well, that's the other thing though too, is like, could we consider him transgender, having those tendencies?
I think he was.
I think he was too. That's the sad thing, is that there was really no avenue to explore that, or, you know, if you grew up, and I think this was maybe Jeffrey Dahmer's problem also, is that if you have those feelings, which some people do naturally, and you are not raised in an environment where people are like, hey, some people have that, it's okay, then
I don't think it's the same.
It kind of goes in all sort of warped directions.
I don't think it's the same thought process. He wasn't a normal transgender person, if you know what I mean. He didn't get to that through the same process of maybe like, because some transgender people have hormonal problems or imbalances. Some of them actually, if you were to do a test in their DNA, they have some female DNA interwoven in. They're intersex people. Okay.
Well, yeah, and it's more common than
people would think.
Yeah.
You know? So there is some biological fact behind it, but it can be.
Well, I guess that's a general theme of sexual repression, though. It's just like another element of his sexual repression.
Well, I think in this dude's case, he was sexually repressed. Okay. Yeah. He didn't have the skills to get a woman, and he definitely couldn't be a man. So he was going to become his own woman. You understand what I'm saying?
I think he was trying to become his mother.
Maybe.
Is what I think.
Maybe he might have had sexual desires for his mom.
That's what I think.
And he tried to become her.
Because she was, when you think about it, she was the only woman that he had any experience with.
But you can't normalize that shit, man. That's fucking sick.
That's what I mean. That shouldn't be normalized.
Yeah. And then he's out there fucking skinning people, and you know, he was a loser.
Well, they all are.
He's a fucking loser.
And we say that a lot.
Yeah, we say that a lot.
But like I said, I feel bad for him because it doesn't feel like, you know, yes, he did the stuff deliberately. Yes, you know, he did have problems, but I don't think he was at the same level of somebody like Ted Bundy or BTK who knew what they were doing.
Right.
He knew that was bad. Like BTK, he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
But he was like, well, I have sexual problems. And so,
sexual problems.
So he just like needed to do that. And he just like didn't really care if it was wrong or not. I feel like Ed Gein almost didn't even really.
That's pretty fucked up when a man has sexual problems that are so bad, he's going to take it out on other people. Excuse me,
people
baby.
He doesn't even know.
Never know. Excuse me, baby. You know what? I need you for a second. Okay. Come here. I just want to talk to you.
Can you imagine?
I got these sexual problems.
And I'd be like, and this is my problem because.
Yeah. And as you walk by and I look at that booty popping out of the back like that with the sunshine hitting it.
Just in that exact right way.
Casting a damn shadow like a damn hour, like a damn sundial. And it's pointing right towards the time when I got to get up in that. And then the refracted.
That's a great line.
You like that? And then the refracted sunlight beaming off the top of that booty like a fucking beautiful rainbow of ass. I mean, that's how BTK should have been. Should have just talked his way into it.
Even though
you talk your way into it, you don't have to.
I'm telling you right now, though, being someone of the female gender.
Yeah, I talked my way into that.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. So, say I'm walking down the path like I do on my power walk every morning.
Your power walk.
And some random dude, especially one that looks like BTK.
Yeah, he tries to talk his way into there. It's not gonna work.
And he says something like that.
It's not gonna work.
I will knock that bitch out.
I understand that.
Right.
And I will step on his neck until he dies.
There are certain limits to.
Well,
yes, obviously.
There are certain limits to what's possible.
Just enjoyed punch your
with talking
in.
alone. Yeah.
Seriously,
it seemed like BTK really. It seems like he enjoyed the torture and kill part.
He did, and I'm like, our friend Sophie, who is also a listener of the show, she sent me a book that's by Catherine Ramsland, and she like corresponded with BTK for many years, and so she has like all these letters and stuff from him. And the more I read it, it's like I can't stop reading it, but it also like makes me really, really angry because I just wish that I could go to the prison and just punch him in the face repeatedly. It's just, oh my God. It's like, it's bad enough that he's a serial killer, but then he also has to be that much of a douche.
Yeah, he's a dork.
Well.
He's a dork. He really thinks highly.
Oh man.
He really thinks highly of himself, but there's nothing really there. Have you ever heard of a dude just kind of sits around? He has no real accomplishments, but he brags about himself constantly.
He's just like not enough.
Because you don't understand. My Lego stack is bigger than your Lego stack. I built the biggest fucking Lego thing. I'm the master of building fucking Legos. And a record set? Oh shit, man! I was like, look,
it's bad enough that you're like killing random people and torturing random people, but then you have to like write these horrible, stupid, dorky poems on top of it, and you have to have like all these stupid justifications. Yeah. It's like, just stop it.
Yeah.
Please, just tell everybody, I killed people, and just shut up.
It was his only claim. It was really his only claim to fame.
And he was like super into, he called, you're going to love this, because I don't think I told you this. Yeah. He called other serial killers that he admired, like Ted Bundy and stuff, he called them Minotaurs.
Minotaurs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so that was his, so whenever he talked about like a serial killer, he'd be like, oh, I was following this one Minotaur that blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he has like all this coded, like he thinks he's James Bond or something.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's like everything is like coded.
Very fantasy prone.
Words. Yeah. Right. Like reading about it is just like really, I'm like, oh my God.
He's going to stylize everything to make it much better than it really is.
Yeah.
Well, he was such a control freak. He had to have a control over everything.
Like his total mindset is like so alien to me. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? Seriously. It makes me so angry.
I love what you're doing now, Jenny, with the little bobblehead of the BTK killer.
Yeah.
Sophie sent us that too.
Yeah.
So it's like we decided to incorporate it into the show because Tom does such a good BTK impression.
Yeah. I forget about him though. I forget about
sometimes, but that's why I started like every week on Instagram. I've been pulling like a quote out of that book of all the dumb shit he says.
Yeah, he says some stupid shit.
Well, here's the thing. This is how like fantasy prone he is, that the whole first part of the book, like the introduction, is the author having to explain all of the like terminology he uses, because he has like everything is like an acronym,
right?
Or he has like different words.
He's got to make it sound official.
Exactly. And it's like, so he has this whole like weird language, this whole like patois that he's using, and it's like, if you just jumped into the book without reading the introduction, you would have no idea what he was talking about, because it's just like, it makes him like feel like more important,
So one that's listening to you guys that I'd never heard of was.
We on now? We on?
We're back. We're back on.
Oh shit, we're back. Hey, we're back.
We're back. We're back. Okay. Was Carl Panzram. I'd never heard of this guy.
Don't get me started.
Oh boy.
Get me started. This
Tom feels quite strongly about Carl Panzram.
This is the only man that ever caused me to walk off a damn show. I'll walk off my own damn show.
No, you did about the necrophilia one.
Carl Panzram. That's right.
This Carl Panzram was like,
who was the necrophilia guy? I remember Panzram.
I can't remember his
name. The necrophilia guy was the guy, the doctor in Key West.
Yeah. I forgot his name, but when you said Panzram, I was thinking of that guy. No, Panzram's Mr. Boy Pussy.
Well, he was like the meanest. This dude hated everybody and everything.
That's right.
I mean, he was the worst.
He was all about that boy pussy.
Well, he was.
That's right. He could sniff it out. You were walking. You went walking by.
Well, he didn't have to sniff it out. If anybody just walked by, he would just grab you.
By, and you were a man, and he saw that ass. That was going to be him.
There's some adult themes in this episode for sure.
That's right. Yeah. This is all fun and games, people.
Yeah, but this guy, I mean,
this guy was not about fun and games. He pulled a gun on you and just, if he was your man, he'd just fucking make you drop your drawers, and he'd just fucking get up behind you and try to find a way to like stuff it on up in there, and just take advantage of a man. He just take your man card from you.
Yeah, I mean,
and I feel like he was like the type of guy that It wasn't just that. It's almost like, and we maybe got into this on the show, but it's like it's almost like it wasn't entirely sexual. One, it was a power trip.
Yeah.
But it's like because he started out doing other things, robbery, arson, other things like that, and I feel like it was almost kind of like he was committing other crimes. Like, hey, I'm going to take all your stuff. I'm going to do this and that. Oh well, I might as well rape you since it's there.
Yeah.
It's like an animalistic thing.
Yeah.
Well, it was free. You know,
that's what I'm saying.
He didn't cost any money.
Now he said that he committed over 1,000 acts of like 1,000 rapes. He said that that's what he admitted to.
How many of them did he kill after doing that?
He said 21.
Okay,
he said
he
21.
mostly let him live.
What time period was this? Just to clarify it.
20s, wasn't it?
He was executed in 1930, so most of his stuff happened like the very early
teens and 20s.
In the teens and 20s, yeah. And he started out as kind of like a criminal, from the beginning. Like even when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, he was already a drunk.
Yeah.
When he was a teenager, and he was already like had been arrested a bunch of times.
Yeah, he came from just like a fucking shit poor family of dirt farmers, and he ended up growing up in basically juvenile hall, basically like juvenile prison, and that's where like the staff and the other inmates were kind of buggering him, and they were all buggering each other, and he grew up where buggerage was the way you got on top of the motherfucker. So he's just like on a rape fest, and he didn't care anything about women. He didn't report ever raping women.
Yeah, I don't think he did. It was all men and boys. All his victims.
He had a taste for the mangina.
But like I said,
for the mangina.
That was all he knew.
That's all he knew.
I mean, because he had been from a very early age.
Didn't have to be shaved or nothing. Didn't even have to be freshly wiped. He'd just fucking get on up in there.
Well, this is the early 20th century we're talking about.
They were not hygienic.
It didn't matter very much back then.
I feel like everyone was stinky. It was kind of like
stinky motherfucker.
I kind of feel like
he was
all
raping bums on the damn train.
He was.
Okay.
Wasn't there some kind of incident where like a policeman came on there?
Yeah.
And like
cop.
Yeah, he raped the cop.
Raped the cop.
Made the bums rape the cop.
Yeah. It was like some of it. I don't know. He doesn't seem like the type of dude that would like self-aggrandize. But
they all do though.
Yeah, and it's like so some of the stuff that he said, because he's like, when he was a teenager, because he started like hopping trains.
Yeah.
When he was still fairly young, and he said that he got gang raped by, I think it was 4 hobos, like on a train, and that he kind of like swore that was never going to happen again, and he was always going to be like the raper rather than the rapee. I guess that's kind of like what
he went from goldfish to piranha.
Right. And so I feel like that's kind of like, I don't know if that's true or not because it just comes from him. But
I have a feeling he lied a lot, but he did a lot of that shit too. I think he did a lot
being institutionalized in those reform schools reminds me of course, like the Charlie Manson has the same kind of stories and developed a lot of his pathology from that.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, especially back then, think about how much was just like under the radar and how much abuse was just tolerated, or especially when it's the bad kids, these boys, most of them probably just didn't have anywhere to go too. It's terrible.
Yeah, and dudes that were into little boys that go to work for those institutions so they could have their fucking way.
Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah,
Because they knew no one was going to do anything about it. I mean, it's not like, in a lot of it's like old people talk about the good old days and stuff like that. It's like, really. Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want to go back to that time.
There was no oversight.
Right. And no one I feel like no one knew or no one cared. Because in these types of, the place where Carl Panzram was, like the Red Wing Training School and places like that, where they were basically just allowed to abuse, children.
I don't think,
and no one did anything.
Here's the weird thing about buggering these little children back in the day. I don't even think they cared. I don't think they thought that was an issue.
They didn't seem to.
No, they're like, well, they're just kids.
Well, either they're just kids, or they were just they were robbers, or they committed crimes, so who cares?
I don't think it was probably a class thing.
Yeah, that too.
They're just garbage.
Yeah, it's like I really don't think anyone gave a crap. Right. So it's kind of like, nowadays it's like people can complain about nowadays, but I think it's a lot better because at least people have an awareness of how that messes people up.
And because of the state of society back then, and I guess you could say the media, and I guess you could say, like, what do you call it? The societal consciousness really wasn't there. Like you could say the word pedophilia or sexual abuse, and they probably had no reaction to those words.
Yeah, they probably didn't even have a concept of that. Yeah,
or really grasp the concept of that. I don't think there was much of a reaction. They're like, pedophilia? What's that? It's when you have sex with children. They're like, oh.
Yeah, and?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It does seem like that.
I don't think they were at the level where there was a consciousness of any of that.
Or how bad it was.
Right.
I don't think they realized. Like, I think they knew it's like, oh, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. But I don't think it was like a big deal.
You're like, well, whose child are you talking about? It might have been something like that.
Yeah, it might have been.
Might have been like that. Well, we're talking about these kids.
They're just like animals or feral children anyway.
Yeah.
So who cares? I do feel like
that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like that. I'm not excusing Carl Panzram,
they seem to have no concept of homosexuality. They just called it sodomy.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't, like, today that would be like what they would call in common vernacular an identity.
Yeah.
Like a sexual identity or a gender identity. They didn't even have that back then. They could probably think, well, yeah, a straight guy can have homosexual relationships. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that there was like a sexual preference or a sexual identity behind that.
A lot of it was a lot of it was a power dynamic too. That was part of it.
Yeah, I definitely think that was the case in Carl Panzram. Even though it's like, a lot of people have said that he really didn't seem to have interest in women, so maybe he was gay. But it's like, in some ways, I do feel like his whole thing was just like power.
He was gay in the way a Spartan warrior was gay.
That's what I mean. It was just kind of like
it's that maximum security gay.
Yeah, it wasn't even like yes, it was sexual, but I don't think that was the primary. No. I don't think that was the primary goal of it. Yeah. I just think he.
You know what they say?
Demeaning people.
Everything is about sex, except for sex. Sex is about power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what he was doing because, like I said, he basically just took it if it was there.
Yeah, it was about hate. I think it was about that.
And this dude, he was literally the worst. He was like not even human almost.
Because he was a big dude too. That was the thing.
He was
pretty big for his time. I don't think he was like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger style decked out. I don't think he weighed much.
Well, he was like real muscular because you have to think like from a very early age because he started committing crimes but he was very young.
I think he was only like 190. He was like 6 something and like 190.
But he had been in reform schools. He had been in prisons pretty much most of his life. And when he wasn't in prison, he was just like hopping trains and doing like hobo shit.
The thing is, the nutrition wasn't there though.
Yeah, but everybody had that handicap.
Yeah, so maybe it's just like in comparison to his contemporaries, maybe.
Because it didn't seem like he had much trouble overpowering other dudes.
Yeah.
And he did. Like I said, he didn't do it to everybody, but...
Well, when you looked at men at the time, man, they're fucking slight build. I mean, guys were fucking small, really up into the 60s. You didn't start seeing big dudes till the 70s. Look at films of World War II infantry and soldiers, like when they're on ships and the landing ships get ready to go. Little bitty guys, man. They almost look like something from China.
Well, it wasn't something.
You guys see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like a lot of that would have to do with like nutrition. I think it's probably.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, they wrote some. They
low protein diets.
Crappy.
Very low protein.
And plus, like, working out wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
That probably didn't come about till the 70s or 80s.
Well, I think the 70s and Muscle Beach and Hollywood, especially the action movies, with Arnold and those guys, that brought that to the mainstream.
Yeah.
But I got photographs or I've seen photographs of guys going all the way back to the fucking 30s and the 40s, even some of them 20s that were bodybuilders. Some of those physiques, lifting myself, I know there's certain kinds of physiques that you can only get with pharmaceutical help.
Yeah.
There was
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. There was some knowledge of, they had some shit that they would sell in the back of magazines called, male enhancement. And it was usually something taken out of the damn testicular extracts from fucking rats, mice, and dogs, and they were taking that and drinking it. And if you were to inject it, it would be even better. But they said that it would make you. And guess who was big into that? Babe Ruth.
I believe it.
That was one of the first dudes that ever admitted to taking what they called male enhancement.
That sounds like boner pills.
It's testosterone.
Yeah.
No, what it does is it allows you to recover more quickly from physical exertion.
There is a great there's a great book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about this guy. He was like a quack doctor, and he was one of the first guys to like kind of get into like radio advertising and stuff. Yeah. But his big thing was that he would take goat testicles and put it in humans scrotum, because he was saying he was saying that like made you like sexually
because you got 3.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. I've heard about this.
I read a book like several years ago, and it's amazing. And
I don't understand how anybody survived that procedure.
Some people several people did die.
Yeah,
because that's
got a damn goat ball up in your sack.
Yeah.
Damn.
Can you imagine being that desperate that you're just put a goat testicle in there?
Yeah, that'll make you more of a man. They got 3. Look at him dangle.
I don't know if they put 3 in there or if they took one of yours out and then put a goat one in there.
They put a third one in there.
Because they had this weird thing. It's like magical thinking, but it's like they had this thing. It's like, well, goats seem like they're that they hump anything that moves, which they don't, but you know what I mean? So they had this kind of like thing where they
testicles do produce testosterone. If you had 3 of them, the thinking was that maybe you would produce more
That's what I mean, but it's like, well, they didn't science back then, man. They
kind of did. They made up, they kind of scienced. It was theoretical.
Let's just graft a goat testicle onto the existing testicles, and maybe there will be more testosterone in the man's system.
Yeah, it took them a while to isolate testosterone, but they realized testosterone kind of would invigorate you. And it used to be you could get that. We're talking about back in the 20s, really, when they first started fucking with that. And there are some people that say maybe that was even going on in the late 1800s because there were some things.
I believe it. They did some weird stuff.
There were some things that they talked about doing that maybe that might construe putting testosterone inside of a man. Like you look at Eugene Sandow, who was one of the first bodybuilders.
Bodybuilders, yeah.
Some have said that he was, I don't remember exactly what the details were. It had to do with male potions.
Yeah.
And so many of these male potions involve rat nuts.
How big can rat nuts be?
They're not very big, but you can grow lots of rats.
True.
Okay, they're easy to grow. And then you can
So you're going to put like a whole bunch of rat nuts in your throat?
No, they would take them and like grind them up and get the rat.
Oh, that's even worse.
This is what I love about you guys because I never know where the conversation is going to go.
We don't
put that parental advisory sticker on here.
Yeah, there'll be an explicit marker on this episode, just like there was on the last one I had you guys.
Sorry.
They were rat nut extract.
Rat nut extract.
You're right. Rat nut
If it
extract.
says that on the bottle, you're like, yeah, give
No,
me
it wouldn't
some of
say that
I'm
on the
gonna drink
bottle.
it
It wouldn't say that on the
I
bottle.
hope
It'd be
not.
say something like male energy, male power.
Pick that up with your laudanum at the store.
Huh?
At the medicine show. Pick that up with your laudanum at the medicine.
Yeah. Well, they would sell it in the back of magazines and stuff.
Rat nut extract.
Well, that's what it was, but that's not what they called it.
Well, they're not going to call it that.
That's not what they called it.
Back in the old days,
I'm just telling the truth.
they didn't have to tell you what was in stuff.
They didn't have to tell you what was in it. I'm not going to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm just telling you the truth.
They didn't have the FDA back then. They didn't have anything. They didn't have laws about how they had to like disclose what was in stuff.
So rat nut extract could end up in the hands of some mere mortal men, and they might do something weird like drink it because they told it was a male elixir.
Because some of them did.
Yeah, or maybe somebody might say, I'm going to put that into what they call a hypodermic syringe and shoot that in. And
oh, I wonder how that went.
It would be just like injecting fucking testosterone. But the thing is, you'd have to do it regularly. And you have to work out a lot. But I've seen photos of certain physiques. This is around like the 20s that show signs of steroid use. And it's not just me saying that. There are other guys that have noticed. They're like, look at the vein on the front of that guy's bicep, because usually you see that with testosterone, with guys that.
If this was a science fiction movie, all of them would start to develop rat faces.
Yeah, they would.
Just like, did you guys ever see that movie, Rock and Roll? It's animated.
Yeah.
And in that movie, like all of the humans, it was like, post-apocalyptic or whatever.
They were all part rat.
They were all like part rat. They had like humans had evolved again, like from rats.
Yeah.
So
I know. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
And it had like a really good soundtrack. It had like Blondie and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed.
Yeah.
Cheap Trick. It's like, it's really good. We need to do a review on that, actually.
Yeah, we'll have to do a review on that.
Well, speaking of movies, I'll segue into movies now. So you guys have done a few. One of my like personal favorites that I haven't seen in years, and I used to see it all the time, just like you talked about, Jenny, was Twilight Zone, the movie.
Man, I love that movie so much.
It's a pretty good movie.
I love that movie so much. I saw it so many, like, I love anthology movies anyway, just in general. And I think Twilight Zone, the movie, that and Creepshow were kind of like the ones that I watched the most growing up. I had both of them. I recorded both of them on like HBO or Cinemax or whatever. And I just watched them over and over. And it's funny when we rewatched Twilight Zone, the movie, because one of our fans sent us the DVD, right?
Yeah.
And watching it again, I remembered every single line.
Yeah.
In that movie. Every single one. Yeah. And I haven't seen it for probably 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
But I saw it so many times when I was growing up that it's like imprinted.
I didn't see that too many times when I was a kid.
How'd you avoid it? It was always on.
What year was that? I might have been in Brazil at that time.
It came out in 82? 85? I can't remember.
It might have been I think it was 83.
Yeah, it's probably like getting ready to go to Brazil.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I got to Brazil, but I wasn't worried about. They didn't have cable there.
Oh, okay.
And then at that time, and I didn't really care too much about movies. I mean, we had girls in Brazil.
There are girls everywhere.
I know that, but you got a teenage boy in Brazil who's from America. All right,
it's like booty
around
everywhere.
all them damn Brazilian girls. And you're there, and you got that damn foreigner fucking aspect to yourself. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The foreign guy shows up and just fucks everything up for all the regular dudes. For all the dudes that come there.
Well, yeah, because you're exotic.
Because you're exotic. You're the foreign guy.
Well, they all want to come to the United States, too. That's part of it.
They were too young to think that way.
Yeah.
So, we're talking
They just wanted to bang the foreigner.
Or, yeah, I guess you could say that. I'm not going to go that far. They just, you know what I mean? They were just like, they were flirty.
Yeah.
They were flirty, and they want to hang out and fucking, they want to ask you damn questions.
Let's
but here's
watch
the thing:
Twilight in the movie.
They start projecting. They start projecting a lot. They figure, well, you're a foreign guy, and you must be cool, and you must know, so you must like the shit that I like. Because that's usually how the girls. And I'm looking at it and go, no, I don't like that. And then all of a sudden you're an asshole.
Wait, why would they think that?
Because they think you're cool.
Why?
Because if you're cool, then that means they're cool, and that you must like what they like. Because what they like is cool. But then I'm looking at what they like, and I'm going, no, you like shusha and shit like that. And I'm not into that.
I actually know who that is.
You know who shusha is?
Yeah, I know who that is.
Well, I still kind of like feel like that because I talk to people. And
Shusha was this fucking blonde chick.
Yeah.
And she was a celebrity. And she was on all these television she was married to Pele.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and she was cute. She was cute.
My ex-husband was super.
But she had her own fucking albums and stuff like that, and her own fashion line. She was like the Brazilian Paris Hilton.
Okay, I gotcha.
Okay.
Lamb.
And because, you run into these Brazilian girls who are like 16, 17 because they like shusha, and you're cool. They must think that you like shusha. And I said, no, I don't like shusha. I like Iron Maiden. And they're like, what the fuck is that? You show them Iron Maiden album, and they're like, yeah, get away from this bullshit.
It's like because being a girl, and this was harder maybe in the 80s.
Yeah.
Being a girl that was into horror.
Yeah.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of girls back then that were in it, or they wouldn't admit it.
You're right. No.
I mean, later on, I do feel like there were some and they were into it, but they wouldn't admit it because it wasn't girly.
Will you tell her?
I loved it, though.
Brazilian girls are girly girls.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Like, I'm not
even still.
Yeah.
You might have Sao Paulo might be a little different. Yeah. Because it's just so cosmopolitan and all that. But yeah, you're right, Jenny. It's like it seems like now that a lot of women are really into horror lot more than they are, at least if they didn't admit it back in the day.
Yeah, I kind of had a hard time because I do feel like even other dudes picked on me about it, and other girls picked on me about it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it would have been that way in Brazil back in the 80s. Back in the mid 80s, Brazilian the typical Brazilian girl, 15, 16, 17, 18, you know what I mean? Like high school age when I was there. Typical Brazilian girl was hyper feminine by American standards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I would have got along with them. Well then.
No. It wouldn't have worked out, Jenny. It wouldn't have worked out.
Another one that you guys have talked about is Altered States. And I know that, Seraphiel, you know a little bit about. Have you ever seen that movie, Altered States?
Me? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 With John, because it's all based on John Lilly and all that.
Me and my friend Stephanie Quick were talking about, we're the most disappointed thing about that movie is that there's no sex with dolphins.
Yes.
Well,
you might have to explain that.
Well, that scientist, Dr. John Lilly, I mean, that's what actually, that's part of what was going down.
Yeah.
And his students too, after him, I think well into the 80s were doing LSD experiments and fucking dolphins. So that's that.
How did the dolphins feel about it?
They were
kind of yeah, right.
I mean, from the accounts, they were. I guess they were pretty with it.
That's pretty hilarious. I love that movie because, I love Ken Russell. We need to do more Ken Russell. I loved Lair the White Worm, which a lot of people don't like, but I really liked it. And I also really loved The Devils, which I don't think Tom has ever seen. He's not really into Ken Russell and stuff. I don't really get why he's not. But it's funny because for a long time, when I was growing up, I was very not straight edge by choice, but I just didn't really feel the need to I was like, I don't really feel like doing any drugs because I'm messed up enough as it is. But doing LSD actually gave me an appreciation for stuff that I didn't have before that. And that included stuff like Altered States, like the movie. Yeah. I think I appreciated it more when I saw it when I was older because I had done LSD in the interim because I hadn't done it the first time that I saw it.
I got her high.
You did, yeah.
It is could be quite transformative, to say the least.
You have to understand what it is you're talking about. So it's an experiment. It's something that everyone, I think, should experience. You know,
yeah, me too.
Because you take that and you go, oh, okay, now it makes sense what it is you're talking about, what a psychedelic is, and what you know, an out of body experience is. You know what I mean? It kind of gives you that little taste of kind of what an altered state of consciousness is, and that's exactly what that movie is about.
Yeah,
an altered state of consciousness.
And I think they portrayed it really well.
Yeah,
I thought.
Right. It's so much better than weed. You do that, and fucking all of a sudden, I just lost all interest in weed after that. I was like, well, weed's kind of like a cheap.
I'm not super into weed. Like, I know people are into it. I've done it a few times, but it's like, I know people are into it. But for me, all it did was, I thought it was supposed to chill you out. For me, it just made me more paranoid, which, I don't need that. And also, it made, I felt like time was going faster. Like I was missing like chunks of time. It's like, you know.
I'm telling you, man, alcohol's better than weed. Alcohol's a lot easier to control.
Hell yeah.
Well, alcohol is bad, I have to say. LSD is pretty awesome, though.
There's only 3 of them. There's 4 of them that I found pleasant, but you got to know how to control them. You got alcohol.
Yeah.
That one's
that's
very
one that,
predictable.
That's the one that we have the most experience with.
Yeah. LSD pretty much tops them all. That one's useful.
I had a very
you can't do much of that though.
I had a very pleasant experience on that. I felt like crap the day afterward.
Yeah. Right.
Like the worst hangover ever. But
that's something you do like maybe once every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's like a treat.
Yeah, depends on what it is. Cocaine. If it's good and you don't have if you don't have a lot of it, it's safe because you want to run out of that and go and then go, okay, that's all I need. Because if there's a bunch of that shit around, you'll just keep snorting.
You'll just keep doing it. Yeah.
Right. But
right. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
No, you want to have a fucking limit on that. And really, what I found what's best about that one is that if you're really fucking drunk at a party, you fucking snort a couple lines, you can go right back to drinking like it didn't happen. It'll counteract it.
Yeah.
It'll counteract alcohol. Without the alcohol, you just fucking talk a lot and become an asshole. But it is fun. And the other one that I thought was useful was opium. Okay.
Yeah.
I've smoked opium in Egypt, and it's a sedative, and you can smoke it all night long, and it just slows you down, and time fucking stands still. And Jimi Hendrix makes a lot of sense. And then you can fucking go to sleep and wake up the next morning and walk away from it.
Tom, you've had a world of experiences.
Yeah, I've been all over the world. I smoked opium in the army when I was in Egypt on the slick.
This was in the Sinai.
In the Sinai Peninsula, I snuck off to a little fucking Bedouin town called Dahab, and Dahab, yeah. And Dahab had it on the beach. Had all these fucking Bedouin pillows and shit like that, and they were fucking. They'll sell you. It's legal. It's legal there.
In some places it is.
Yeah, they'll sell you opium, which is just a mild sedative. You know what I mean? I wouldn't inject heroin. I've known some people that have done it, and they never really come back from that.
I don't want to mess with that. No.
Well, that's fucked up a lot of goths.
Yeah.
And there were goths that I liked that I met them. When I met them, they were heroin addicts because the shit that they did.
They're dead now.
Well, they're dead now, yeah. But they were heroin addicts, became heroin addicts in the early 80s. And they were cool up until they died, but they died. And they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because they slept. They fucking sleep.
I feel like the weird thing about heroin is that it either kills you when you're in your 20s
or preserves you
like forever. Because look at like Iggy Pop or Nick Cave or somebody like that who were like 50s.
Keith Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still look fantastic and they're still like running around.
It's because they sleep through the fucking whole thing.
I think that's what it is.
It's like suspended animation.
Yeah, because they're sleeping through a lot of things. So if it doesn't kill you early, then it makes you live longer and makes you look good and not get fat when you're old.
Yeah, the rest of that shit, I wouldn't fuck with any of that.
No, I don't.
Nothing else I wouldn't fuck with.
I don't blame
I've looked at everything. I've seen dudes that done all that shit. You don't want any of that shit. Really, you want to stay away from all that. But it's always good to just like check it out, just to see what it is people are talking about. Well, yeah,
as long as you know that you're not, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big drug. Like I love to drink. I'm not like, denying that. But it's like, really the only drugs I was ever interested in were LSD. That was the one I was most interested in.
Yeah.
Because I'm a creative person. It's like I wanted to see what would happen.
Without LSD, there never would have been the cure.
So did you see that like goat thing with all the eyes that was in all the states?
It wasn't like that. It's not like that. It was kind of like the awesome thing about it that I found was that it was like, this is a weird thing to say. It's like being drunk, but you're totally lucid.
Sober. Yeah, you're totally sober. Yeah.
It's like being sober and drunk at the same time.
Yeah.
And it also made me feel like everything was going to be all right.
Yeah.
Which was a very pleasant sensation for me because I have like, anxiety and stuff like that. So it's like I always feel like everything's
another one that's
going wrong. So it was like really nice to feel like, hey, everything's cool.
Another one that sounds interesting is that damn ayahuasca. Some guys are going down to the Yucatan Peninsula.
I would like to try that, but I don't like the feeling of like all the nausea of going because I hate throwing up and I hate feeling like
I can throw up and talk at the same time.
Well, yeah, I know you can, but I don't like that.
Well,
Jenny, can I ask what was the dosage?
What was it?
It was how much was that? It was a hit and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1.5. Yeah, it was 1.5.
Things start getting. I've heard things start getting real interesting. About after 5 to 10 more.
The weirdest thing
I didn't want to do that to her though.
Well, it was the first time.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing that happened was I thought that I was a werewolf and that I wanted to go outside.
Yeah, I remember that. I said,
and do werewolf stuff.
Yeah, I had to.
But he wouldn't let me go out. He's like, no, you're not a werewolf. It's like, just calm down.
Yeah, then she forgot about that.
I did I still remember it now, but I did think I was a werewolf though. Yeah. For some reason.
I just sat there fucking looking at my laptop talking to David Bowie.
We listened to a lot of David Bowie. We listened to some David Bowie. We listened to some
perfect sense.
Nick Cave. We listened to like all kind of stuff. It was pretty awesome. We had a good time.
Yeah.
But, the next day I felt like absolute crap.
Well, all your neurons were firing fucking double time.
It's really weird because it made me like so happy that the next day my face hurt from smiling so much.
Yep.
Like everything, like my cheeks and stuff were all like sore.
Yeah, she was looking at the screensaver on the fucking television, and she was, "It's moving."
Well, and the clock. Remember the clock on the oven? I thought was in Chinese.
Yeah.
It looked like Chinese characters. Yeah. The weird thing about it is that that it's not. Like that you're seeing things.
Yeah.
But it's okay though.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
That's what I mean about being drunk and being sober at the same time. Like what you're seeing isn't real.
Yeah. You guys know what she's talking about, right?
No.
We're not. Yeah. No, it's like what you're seeing isn't real, but at the same time you're kind of like enjoying it. That's what's nice about it.
Yeah, you just gotta let it happen.
Because when you drink, it's like sometimes when I drink a lot, like sometimes we'll be drinking a lot in the house and we'll be watching a movie, and then the next day I'm like, what was that movie we watched? I don't even remember what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like the whole second half of it, I just like blacked out and I don't even remember. But it's like that was a very, it was a very lucid experience. Yeah. It's like the best.
Well, that's a good dosage for an experience like that.
Yeah.
But if you take a whole lot, a lot of people really start to question what is the very fabric of reality, and a lot of people start feeling like it's actually giving them an insight into something even deeper about reality itself.
The thing is, though, is that the source we weren't really sure what it was we were taking, so you can't take a bunch until you know the source.
Yeah, your first time you don't want to.
Yeah, because this was the first time we were getting it from this.
Right, we didn't know exactly what it was until you try it. And then, the best, we're talking about back in the day, okay? I'm going back in the time machine, all right? Back in the fucking 80s. The best shit I ever had was it came out of a university laboratory. And this is back in the late 80s, all right? And I did like four hits of that. And that shit, it's a damn spiritual experience. It had the 4 hits together. It was album cover, And the album cover was the cover from Dark Side of the Moon. You know what I mean? With the damn triangle and the damn prism with the prismatic light coming. Have you ever seen Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album?
Yeah.
That's what the 4 hits was. I took that whole fucking album right there. And yeah. You're having a very spiritual experience, and you're all that, finding out your place in the machinery of the universe and how you're interconnected with that, and then how you are watching yourself from within, and the universe watches you from, and it is a singularity and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that, and you're swimming in the singularity, and you as an individual don't matter because you're the universal consciousness, and you are watching everyone, and everyone is watching you, and blah, blah, blah. All that bullshit happens.
See, that's what I liked about it, though. Yeah. Because, like I said, it's kind of like, it gives you that feeling like, and I told my sister this, like, afterward, I told her, I was like, you know how you see, like, all those movies with all those, like, ex-hippies and stuff that used to do LSD, and they're talking about, oh, we're all one and everything. I'm like, I get that now.
Yeah.
Because that's how you feel.
Right, yeah.
Like, I'm sitting there by our, like, back window and, like, looking out at the trees and everything. And, like, baby Cookie was, like, next to me, like, looking out the window. And I'm looking down at her and I'm like, me and the cat and the outside, like, everyone out there, like, we're all one, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get what they're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true, though, but it is.
Well, no, but it's like, that's what it feels like.
It all depends, because what it is, you're stepping back and you're looking at it. You're looking at the big picture.
Yeah, and right. That's what I liked about it.
That's what
I liked about it. Because it's good to get, like, out of your own head, especially somebody like me that's, like, in their own head all the time. So it's good to kind of, like, back up and get out of your own head.
I come back to reality and realize that I'm me and y'all are a bunch of you motherfuckers. You know what I'm talking about? and then
y'all are a bunch of yous.
Yeah, y'all are a bunch of yous. I got my own shit I'm doing. And...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I think it's kind of dependent on who you are too. I think creative people and more intellectual people really like it, but I think there's a fault in then thinking, oh, this is the answer, because I've seen some pretty dangerous people and some pretty stupid people on it, and it just amplifies what they already are.
Yeah.
And another thing is, it's not the answer. Not at all.
No.
Like
Nothing is. There is no answer.
That temporary situation where you're looking down at everything and looking at the big picture and see, that's really only under the, I think that is a truism. You know what I mean? That point of view, what you're seeing. But that's not your mission right now in life. You know what I mean? You as an individual have things to do to complete the tapestry of reality.
Yeah.
So when you kind of come back to reality, you have to do what it is that you have to do. So doesn't mean you should change your priorities. All that Timothy Leary shit about, hey man, because we can get high, we can see this and that. Let's just fuck off and like sit around in fields and shit, and not wash our underwear and shit. That's not the answer.
Well, it's a little self-indulgent.
Exactly.
I'm just saying I like it for the perspective that it gives you. Like it does give you a perspective where you can actually get outside of your own head and see yourself in like like in a larger milieu, if you want to put it like that. That's very good, I think. But if you get to a point where you're just doing it all the time and you just get like totally like solipsism about it, it's like that's not good, obviously. No. Anything that's like putting you back in your own head is not
What's
good.
More important is to understand that higher view over reality, come back and then do the things you have to do to help society build the technological things we need to build in order to transcend the limitations of humanity. Like, let's say,
well, everyone has their tiny little part to play.
That way we can live forever. Maybe if we they're laughing, but no, I believe so, because
you're a transhumanist.
Transhumanism, but not really in the same way that they're talking about in the technological aspect, like some of these guys in big tech. They're trying to do some shit that I don't think will work. Yeah, your consciousness that is intertwined with your brain, your physical brain. your consciousness seems to be a bunch of quantum particles. It's like a quantum field, and they're all interconnected with each other in quantum superposition. You might want to call that your soul. And your soul is kind of, if the brain were to disappear, those particles may hold together I think they do, based on my own personal experience, that if your brain were to disappear, much of what you would call your point of view or your consciousness and your identity might hold together for at least a while. I think it might hold together forever, but science says at least for a while. If you could somehow get that quantum cloud and then separate it from the brain and put it in another medium, like an artificial brain, then you might live kind of forever in a new medium. So what I'm talking about is what were to happen if you got old to where your body was getting fucked up and decrepit, and you were getting ready to die. Maybe you go into this quantum spirit world, all right? But let's say you didn't want to do that. Let's say I want to stay here. I got to complete this work I'm working on. And this work that I'm working on might take 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You can then take that quantum cloud and download it into, say, like a virtual reality inside of an internet. And you might be able to live on in the internet for a few centuries. You know, gaining new experiences, virtual experiences, coming up with new ideas, contributing to mankind, building things, inventing things, communicating with the living through the internet. There's a lot of stuff you might be able to do post-body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not immortality, because the planet is only going to live for so long before the sun burns out at its maximum. It's only, you know what I mean? The internet would only be there for as long as there's electricity in a civilization.
Yeah, as long as there's someone there to maintain it.
As long as there's someone there to maintain it. So let's say you download yourself and you live on for another 200 or 300 years. Okay? That's still not unnatural, because if the internet that supported your consciousness disappeared, you'd move on into the spirit world where you were going to go anyway.
Yeah.
So why not do it?
Well, if you have something more to contribute, sure, you can hang around longer.
Like, yeah, my body's going to die, but my mind can be kept alive inside this fucking internet. And let's go in there for a little while until the internet vanishes, and then I'll die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you can contribute to mankind.
Yeah.
So I don't see the problem. Some people are fucking, upset. Alex Jones is upset about transhumanism. All right.
Yeah.
Because he thinks we're supposed
upset about everything.
Well, he wants us to go to heaven immediately.
No one's going to heaven.
There's so much, but let's not say that. There might be I believe there's an afterlife. It's probably not what's talked about in the Bible, but I believe there's an after existence.
And I think you've had experiences that led to that, exactly, Tom. So
exactly. So, but when you talk about deep time, the universe has deep time involved, billions and trillions of years left. What difference does it make if you live for another 200 years inside the internet?
Yeah, the universe really doesn't.
The universe doesn't give a shit. It's just life extension. It's not immortality.
I think people tend to, well, you know why it is, but it's like I do feel like people have an inflated sense of their own importance in the grand scheme of things.
I hope you're not talking about me.
No, I'm just saying people in general. People in general. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, everybody's cool, and it's like, well, as long as you're cool and like you have something to contribute. Okay. Yeah, like you living another 200, 300 years, if you have like some shit to contribute. I don't want BTK living another 200 years.
Well, I don't
want to listen to his bad poetry for another couple centuries.
I think eventually, and we're not talking about too far in the future, you'll have an internet that's so powerful that it will be able to contain, and databases that are so powerful that will be able to support the consciousnesses of millions of people.
Yeah, I think didn't Frank Tipler talk about that kind of stuff?
There had some shit like that on Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Remember that, where that woman was dying in a damn hospital and she was living a virtual life?
Yeah.
She was living a virtual lesbian life in another fucking alternate reality.
So just life.
Remember that shit? Yeah.
That's a great episode.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That show. Yeah.
So I kind of think that is the next thing to come. As we age, we download into a virtual reality. We'll live there for a while. And as technology's ability to store information kind of fucking exponentially grows, there'll be more and more people living inside that damn internet.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a situation where you'll have artificial bodies that these internet people can inhabit, like spaceships. They're doing space travel, or drones, or motorcycles, or cars, or even robots that you can, or it looks like a humanoid robot you can walk around in. So you can jump between an internet world and then the physical world where you're inhabiting a damn robot. Like
the thing is, though, is like, this is what Sergio and I have talked about this a lot, about the transhumanist stuff, and like, who gets that though? It's obviously going to be something for the elite. Like John Q. Public just isn't going to be able to get downloaded into the system and and have his robot suit.
Okay. Well, at first, yeah, true. At first, it'll be rich people, and eventually, it'll be pretty much everybody. Because you got to understand, you have in your pocket right now a cell phone that could have never existed back in the 40s. Only even a trillionaire couldn't have owned that.
But isn't this going to happen alongside of the advancement of AI to the point where AI will be so much, superior to human consciousness? Or
I have.
It's going to wipe us out.
Why would they keep us around?
Here we go. I kind of have a feeling that the AI situation will go similar to what you saw in the Dune novels. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we have the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I think that once AI is demonstrated, after a while, people will go, this shit's dangerous. That's what I think will happen. And then they'll go, we have to limit AI to only do certain functions.
Well, that's when Skynet happens, man.
Yeah. Well, actually, if I were to go back in time and work it all out between T1, Skynet in the early 80s, Skynet should have happened already.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Skynet probably should have happened. So that tells me that true AI is harder to do than we think.
I think that is true.
Yeah, I kind of think it is. I mean, I read several books on the topic where, because there's a huge chasm between the way AI works and the way an organic human brain works. And I'm not sure.
We're not digital.
Yeah, it's like I'm not sure that chasm can ever be breached. I'm not saying never. I'm just saying it's different.
If we get to the point that we can contain human consciousness, then we'll know the real science behind creating a consciousness like ours.
I think so.
In that case, AI would probably be along to a further extent by that point.
I think probably what will happen is basically along the same lines that you're thinking, is that by the time AI becomes possible, we will know more about human consciousness and artificial consciousness, and we will make the decision of whether or not we want AI. And I think we'll get AI. We do have it already, just that it's a limited version. But if you make AI, you're trying to make a servant, not a master.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So if you start making it and you go, you know what, this is not going to be a servant. This is going to be a master. This is going
to be the boss of me. I don't like it.
So, and I think I think they'll be able to understand how to fucking prevent that.
You got to keep it in the circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to create some arrogant motherfucker. What was that shit out of the old Star Trek? Lull? Remember? Lull or Lar? That was Data's fucking...
Yeah, his brother.
Yeah. They had to shut his ass down because he was too arrogant. What was his name again?
Lore, I think was
Lore. Yeah, Lore. Yeah.
God, that I know that is crazy.
Yeah, that's something. It means you're old.
Means you're Trekkie.
We're all old. Is that right?
Right. We're all getting older by the day.
Yeah, Lore. So that's what'll happen. That's what happened in Star Trek when they made Lore. When they found Lore, Lore was in pieces. And that was because they took his ass apart.
Yeah, they're like, we did that for a little while, and then we decided that wasn't such a good idea.
And then they made Data. They made Data, who was like the eunuch version.
Oh yeah. I guess he is that controlled version meant to just be a servant.
Yeah. So I predict. One thing I can predict about mankind is mankind's arrogance, and mankind is not going to want to be told what to fucking do.
Well, yeah, clearly.
Especially by something that's artificial that he created. So I really don't think, and the idea of emergent intelligence from the internet, that would have happened already. There isn't going to be anything emergent. It's got to be something that's forced into existence. And it's probably going to have to be something quantum, like a quantum computer, because what gives you consciousness, what makes me and you feel like we are here at this moment, looking through these eyes, is not a digital process. It's something analog. And it's going to be hard to create that. You might be able to simulate a conscious creature, but it was not going to be conscious. That thing is
not.
It's not.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. And from what I've read, it does seem like I said, the process behind it is so different.
It's very different.
That I'm not sure. And I'm not saying never, because, shit happens, but
the internet has so many connections and interconnections and so much data.
You would think that
would be alive.
That if it was an emergent property, that it would have happened by now.
It would have happened by now.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, because it might. It might happen tomorrow, because why not? Everything's already going to crap.
You have everyone's computer connected together through the internet. That's more connections inside a brain, probably by thousands and thousands of times.
I'm sure it probably is.
So it would have emerged, and it's not going to emerge, because that's not what a computer is, and it's not what a mind is. A mind is analog. It's not digital. It's just.
Although I feel like now that you've said that, like tomorrow,
no, it won't.
It's going to happen. Like I said, just to compound the crappiness.
You're just making. It's like a statue. You can make as many statues as you want. Statues are not going to start moving. They're not going to become alive. It's just not. It's not gonna, yeah. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Didn't you see Charles Pop?
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for stepping in last minute and being great and talking about everything from
extra philosophical discussion.
Yeah. Expected to get.
Well, hopefully you guys out there in listener land will enjoy what we talked about. And you've had some drinks with us, and you can fucking merge with us, and we will all fucking.
That would be awesome. We'll just have one long podcast for eternity inside the AI machine.
We're all on ayahuasca, and we're all pretty.
Hell yeah. All right, stay on the line for us, guys. We're going to close this section out, and we'll be back out to close the show on Conspirinormal. All right. Well, welcome back, guys, to Conspirinormal. And we're going to close out the show, close out this episode. So you guys may have noticed that we are doing this remotely. I am no longer sitting in the studio with Seraphiel at this moment. Hopefully,
when audio quality is probably suffering a little bit, but you guys can endure with us.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is what it is. We're kind of just doing what we do and just keeping the show going through this kind of troubled time that we're in. And that's kind of what that is. But so we want to thank you guys for listening. This was a really fun episode to do, and it really kind of took my mind off a lot of things. But we are kind of in tough times at the moment. And guys, if you're interested in any way of trying to support us, trying to support what we do, we do still have our Patreon. It is still up. You know, if you guys can help us out, that would be great. We know that people are experiencing a lot of turmoil, a lot of problems at the moment. We kind of have like a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, but we do believe that things will get better. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Strange Realities Conference. About that.
Yeah.
We are still at this moment, since it is still like at the end of September, we are still going ahead with it, but we don't know what is going to happen here in the next few months. So stay tuned. We will make any kind of announcement. We're not canceling at the moment, but I know that people are thinking a lot more about what is going on right now in the world, and you're not thinking about coming to Nashville at the end of September. We do think the possibility that, you know, flights may be cheap to come out here by then. So if you're still interested, you can go to strangerealitiesconference.com. But we will be, if we have to change anything, or we have to maybe make it one day like we did before, or we have to do anything, we will let you guys know. We will post. I'll post on Conspirinormal. I'll post on my own Facebook page, and we will make announcements here. So just, you know, keep tuned on that, what we're going to do as far as that goes. And I think that's it, man. If you're ready to close out the show, give us feedback, because, you know, you guys are listening to a lot of podcasts right now. So thank you guys for listening, and we will be back next week on Conspirinormal.
If you would like to help the show, please consider becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Conspirinormal, or leave a one-time donation at Conspirinormal.com. And please check out our YouTube channel, Conspirinormal Podcast.